is the UTV network. And you with UTVi.
Hello and welcome to Stars on the Lal Street. I'm Priyanka Chopra, and for once, I'm not the only star on the show. With me is a man who has a huge following on D Street himself, Mr. Jhunjhunwala.
In conversation with Miss Priyanka Chopra, I have to introduce her in one way, that I think she might have been a far richer woman if she would get a fee every time she came in a dream of an Indian man.
Oh God. Wow. Flattery gets you most places.
It's not flattery, it's reality, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I think that's very kind of you to say that. So I think we're both very good at these introduction things. We should think of alternate professions in television.
Alternate profession in television?
Yeah. See, you gave such a nice introduction to me. So any actor that you would introduce would be extremely flattered. And I tried.
You tried, no doubt, but ma'am, I wanted to be a journalist when I was young. But now I have chosen my profession just as I've chosen my wife. I'm not going to change either. Regardless of the opportunities available.
I like the way you fit that in the middle. I was just about to say your wife would be very flattered and glad to hear what you just said. But I don't know if I should anymore.
No, my wife won't be flattered because I do it every day. She's used to it.
The job, I presume.
No, the job of flattering her.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, so I wanted to know that, you know, since I was just telling everybody that it's great to be in conversation with somebody who you feel, I mean, in terms of professions, we are, I think, diametrically opposite, except for the common ground of stress, I think. I think stress in the hours is something that we have in common. And the fact that there's a lot of instability in both our professions. Would you agree with that?
I would like to come on the part of stress first, that, see, you do not succeed without obsession. And we have chosen, both of us have chosen our professions knowing that success will not come with stress. I will be successful and I won't be stressed. वो सब दिल बहलाने के लिए गालिब ख्याल अच्छे हैं.
Yeah, I agree.
And we have chosen our professions and our attitudes with knowledge of it.
I also think that you have to truly love what you do, especially in jobs which are so high in terms of stress, and you've got to love it, if not be obsessed by it.
Ma'am, I feel in life that I don't know about stress. I do what I enjoy and I enjoy what I do. And the day I don't do that, I don't feel that, I'll change my profession, I'll change my life.
No, but I'm really curious, from a journalist to somebody who's now a huge name in the Lal Street, and how did that happen?
You know, I come from although my father was in government service, I come from a business background. I'm a baniya by caste and my
so you're in the right profession now.
No, yeah, and my forefathers were all in business. I guess I have some of their genes. And my dad had some interest in the stock market and stocks. You know, I used to read about them at 13, 14. My father used to discuss stocks, and I used to ask him. So he used to tell me, look at the newspaper, and when the news comes about a stock, how stocks fluctuate. So just at a young age, some people are fascinated by jets, by other things. I was fascinated by the stock market.
Amazing, because people call you genius. They say that you find a way of getting into even the smallest of companies, and suddenly, boom, you're like the biggest stockholder. How does that happen? I mean, how do you decide? Are you like a prodigy?
Ma'am, I would like to say first thing about success, that see, all adjectives I always take in life, whether good or bad, with a pinch of salt. Someone calls me a genius, I take it with a pinch of salt. Calls me a nut.
I didn't learn how to take a compliment.
No, but
even I'm very bad at it, but you should learn how to take a compliment.
I'm happy for the compliment, especially when a pretty girl gives it, pretty lady gives it to me. But I must say one thing in life, that I believe success is by God's grace and endless blessings.
Right.
I believe that the final element and the ultimate decider is luck, and that luck is nothing but God's grace and endless blessings.
You don't think it has anything to do with work?
Of course, there is hard work, there is stress, there is uncertainty. There are times when you feel, what am I doing it all for? Why don't I give it up? Right? All that is there. But ultimately, I think, if you come to my office, the first thing I have is a prayer. And that prayer is God's grace and endless blessings. I think I am what in life by the grace of God and the blessing of elders. Let me never forget that. And when I take that success with that humility, right? I also take success with the fact that it is temporary and transient.
No, absolutely.
If we have that attitude of it being temporary and transient, then we never ever get, boisterous, or we become paranoid. So I mean, getting into companies, ma'am, and I also believe that the chemistry of the success of every individual is unique.
How do you pick? How do you know? I mean, I've always been very curious. I'm not really big on stocks, I'll be honest. But it's actually scared me. There's enough instability in my life, in the profession that I am in. With every film, it decides your destiny. With every choice that you have to make to do a film, you have to be sure whether that's the right thing to do or not. So stocks, I'm just like, I want the rest of my life should have certain stability to it. But my mom, who takes care of most of my finances and things like that, is a little bit of a genius when it comes to these things as well. So I've always wondered, I mean, she has a huge interest in the market. And she really enjoys it. She thrives on it, which I'm pretty sure you do as well. But how do you take a pick? How do you know when? And how do you know when to pull out, more importantly?
Ma'am, I can't describe, one thing I feel the most important thing to succeed in the stock market is your attitude towards the market. 2, 3 things. I think first thing is you must realize that the market is supreme,
Right.
ultimately. But in the mid-set markets, do excesses. You must recognize those excesses, right? And you benefit from the excesses. In the stock market, something worth 5 sometimes sells for 50, right? And you must have an attitude that with time, everything changes and passes. See, most of us are affected by the stock market, what has happened in the immediate future, in the immediate past. So, we cannot really illustrate. We have to treat each situation separately. But one thing I can tell you, the most interesting part about investing is, just I talked to somebody in the hotel here that we were discussing the hotel industry. We invest in a hotel industry, we invest in a bank, we invest in a consumer electronics company, we invest in a consumer marketing company. I have investment in Titan. We have investments in so many different aspects. I have invested in Prime Focus, if you've heard of it. I don't know.
Yeah, of course I know.
So I'm one of the earliest promoters, actually.
Really? They've worked on a lot of my movies.
So, the most interesting aspect of investing is the kind of mental and intelligence you have to use, mental power. And it requires the use of all senses, just as the Kama Sutra says. That, you don't only have to look at material matters, about figures. You got to judge character of people, right? You got to judge the quality of entrepreneurs. So interesting is such an encompassing and interesting profession. And the greatest thing about it is the uncertainty.
But isn't that like a really big description? I mean, does it take all that to decide on what to invest in?
Absolutely, ma'am. And it takes all this, but see, the decision is a mental decision in which all these ingredients come into the mind in a manner which, you learn. The first thing when I want to invest is somebody, I want to judge the character of that person.
Right.
Now, I'm not making any separate effort to judge the character. But because my mental process says that I must judge the character of the person, the quality of the business, the valuation.
So by judging the character of the person, you decide where they are taking the business to, which decides whether you should invest in it or not.
Yeah, because that is one of the ingredients.
So it's like a whole...
And now I make investments not only in listed companies, I make investment in unlisted companies. Small companies, I've invested quite a lot of money in unlisted companies. So there you really require, because there a central entrepreneur is extremely important. So what I find so interesting about investing is that, it encompasses your entire mental mind. And it is the great uncertainty. The biggest thrill is the thrill to be proved right. Ma'am, God has been kind. I have far lesser wealth than people think, but far more than I need, as I look upon wealth. So, some extra wealth is not really going to change my lifestyle. But the thrill of being proved right.
I truly wish I had that problem. I really, really do. I wish I could say that.